Hey, it's Jordan. Delighted to be joined by a progressive champion down in West Virginia, Paula Jean Swearengin. You remember her running for the Senate a couple years ago, and she's back at it, running again, which I think would be hard during a global pandemic. So we'll get to that. First, let me ask you, Paula Jean. West Virginia already has pre-existing health problems because of the coal industry causing so much sickness down there. Obviously, high rates of cancer and other things. There's obviously an opioid epidemic in West Virginia.
Right.
How is your neighbors and the people you're trying to serve? How has COVID been affecting West Virginians?
Well, our governor is talking about opening up our state, which is really, really frightening. We have a petition out to him and Shelley Moore Capito and Joe Manchin, which are both of our United States senators. One, to not open the state too soon because we do lead in the country to being the most vulnerable because of the health conditions in this state, like you mentioned. And also, too, it's kind of like they're bidding against us against each other for human rights, like they usually do. And all what's about the economy, well, we're not collateral damage. And just because of our population is the reason why they're talking about opening up our state as one of the first states. And yeah, it's really pretty unacceptable. So on a federal level, our representatives could push legislation like a $2,000 stimulus until we get through this and we know more about this virus. There's a lot of people in the rural areas that live in really impoverished conditions and they don't have access to comprehensive broadband, and some of them don't even have access to the outside world. So we're asking our governor to not only halt on trying to open our state too soon, but also send out the National Guard to check on folks in communities like that. And then there's people like in Hayden City, West Virginia right now, Minden, West Virginia, that has been dealing with chemicals in their soil, chemicals in their water. Not only were they dealing with the crisis, water crisis, and the crisis of what was in their soil, and a lot of people across the state are, still begging for a clean glass of water. So they was already dealing with that, and now people in the front lines of their communities are not, they're still having to hand out water, raise money for water. Even though our governor's declared a state of emergency, we've really not seen anything from the National Guard, especially in these rural areas where the people were struggling already.
And the thing that I find kind of just like puzzling, they're in a rush to open the economy, but like, how do you open an economy when you don't have customers? I mean, we just had
That's right.
20 million people just lost their jobs.
That's
People
right.
who haven't lost their jobs are tightening their belt because they might be afraid they're going to lose their jobs. So it's
Hmm.
like you're going to open up restaurants and these kind of things, but you might not even have enough customers to make overhead. So it's not only
Well,
it's
this really solidifies that we don't take the care of the most vulnerable in the country, because not only do we have a lot of people that are dealing with health diseases, but we have a a big part of our population is the elderly. And the folks at Walmart, our healthcare workers, and everybody else that's working in the front lines of the communities. We have not seen any personal protective equipment till recently, and that includes my children too. All four of my children are working in the front lines of this, so it's frightening for me as a mother, and I know that's the case for a lot of people across the country. And I think it's a disgrace that we're supposed to be one of the richest countries in the world, but we can't provide something that's as simplistic as a face mask and personal protective equipment to the folks that need it the most right now. And a lot of families in this state, you have multiple families living in the same household because they are so poor. So people that are forced out into the front lines of the communities can possibly take something back home to, maybe a grandfather or grandmother that's high risk. So, it's like I said, we rank, top in the country right now, and it's frightening to me that any state is talking about opening up right now, but especially our state, because we are going to be impacted heavily if they do.
And I want to go forward to your campaign. For those that don't remember, you did fairly well for someone that nobody had known about a year prior to your election against Joe Manchin. I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but you got tens of thousands, if I remember
We
correctly.
got almost 45,000 votes, but it was really amazing because we got more votes against a sitting incumbent in 75 years. And so we really proved that he could be challenged. And we got more votes again than any Republican on the ballot. So
Wow.
as an unknown candidate at the time, we did pretty amazing because nobody knew who I was. And also, I'm going to go back on my team a little bit, and everybody worked really hard, but there was a lot of inexperience in that campaign, and we've gained a lot of experience since the last time I ran for office, and I am running for United States Senate again. If you were at my watch party, if you'd asked me that night if I was going to ever do it again, I don't know if I ever would have, but I did. They fired me. I just can't put it out. And also found out I was expecting my first grandchild, which was born on January 26th.
Wow.
And with everything I was starting to see at that time was, that might happen with the presidential election. Right now, I want people not to give up hope, because we still have a way to fight back, and we need a good, strong Congress. And that's why I decided to run for office again, especially the Senate, because they make decisions like with the Supreme Court. And so we need accountability, and we need good people servants in Congress. And that's one of the reasons, too, that I decided to run again, is because right now, especially, we're having to argue on who might be more rapey. So, we have to have a good, strong Congress, and that just, we have a way to fight now. And we have a slate of candidates with brand new Congress, for example, that are ordinary people like myself, that are not taking corporate and corporate PAC dollars, that have struggled in the front lines of our communities. We know what it's like to live day to day, go from paycheck to paycheck. And we're all just trying to work together to make sure that we do have a good, strong Congress. And even here in West Virginia, shout out to the West Virginia Can't Wait movement. We also have a slate of candidates, over 90 candidates, that are ordinary people too. And they are running for local offices that have also pledged not to take corporate and corporate PAC dollars. So after the teachers' strike and everything that's happened, West Virginians are really standing up to try to change the dynamic of our government.
And you ran against Joe Manchin, who, people watching know who Joe Manchin is, might as well be a Republican. Now you're running against Shelley Moore Capito. I know less about her, but my strong assumption is she's not exactly progressive, and she's not exactly, demanding the necessary relief that working people in West Virginia need. The Democrats nationally have gone along with this Republican totally inadequate response, the first bill. So tell us about your opponent. What is she doing? Is she doing anything well? And what should people know about the current senator there?
She's a corporate servant. Her top three donors is the pharmaceutical industry, the coal industry, and the gas industry. So, it's nothing new. She's a rubber stamp for Trump. Her dad used to be a governor, so she's in office because of her, her family's dynasty. And she doesn't stand up for women. And it's really personal with me, really, with Shelley Moore Capito, I think even more than it was with Joe Manchin last time, because Shelley Moore Capito is a mother and a grandmother. And she's turned a blind eye to the children dying and starving in this state. And I think she owes the people of West Virginia an explanation for that. And I want her to look me in the eye and tell me why that she's ignored the children of our state like she has.
Mm-hmm. And what's interesting to me, I know it's a Democratic senator's race, but I see a growing opportunity right now for kind of by coming together of progressives and even some right-wingers. I mean, remember, Bernie did incredibly well in West Virginia in 2016, and I see a lot of even conservatives starting to realize, like, wow, we're getting screwed here, even by the Republicans. Are you seeing some of that? I know you can't canvass like you used to because of the coronavirus pandemic, but in your outreach, are you even seeing that it's not just progressives that might vote for you, but others too?
Well, I seen it in 2018 and I see it now. Just last week, I helped a Republican coal miner change his party affiliation to Democrats. This is not about partisan politics for West Virginians anymore. And I hear it all the time. I make calls and have spoken to a lot of voters since we've been under quarantine. And we want economic diversity. We have to combat the addiction epidemic. And that's not just with drug replacement therapy. That's supporting long-term recovery systems, making sure that they're funded on the state level and a federal level, and making sure that our incumbents are not just putting all that money back into big pharma, but actually, working on the solutions for that. And as far as economic diversity, We don't have economic diversity. The coal industry's been declining since the 70s. The cruelest lie that a politician can tell is the coal industry is going to rebound, because it's not. We needed a plan B a couple decades ago. And people are actually dying and starving here. They don't know where their next meal is going to come from. Now, living in the middle of a pandemic, like I said, in these rural areas where they're already struggling, the possibilities are endless for West Virginia. We could grow hemp on mountaintop removal sites. We could tap into hydropower, geothermal. We could put renewables on mountaintop removal sites. It's been proven that renewables are viable here. If, in some areas, some people still don't even have adequate sewage systems. But if we make sure that we create an infrastructure to where we do have comprehensive broadband, we have good roads, we have good schools, we clean up our water in our state, then we're going to invite other business here. But what's happened to West Virginia for far too long is that we have people that are not people servants. They're servants to corporations and lobbyists and special interests. And that's why I keep on going, is because we have to have a plan B for West Virginia. We deal with depopulation. I worry about the future for our children, and we are standing up together. And like I said, it's not about partisan politics. If we have true conversations about what our needs are and have visionaries for our future instead of visionaries for our demise, we all come together. And despite partisan politics, believe it or not, West Virginians are some of the most hospitable people in the world. You may have a neighbor that's a Republican and another neighbor that's a Democrat, but where we're in trouble, even when it even solidifies it with this pandemic, people are coming out and helping each other. They're making sure that people have food. They have the supplies that they need. People are knocking on doors and trying to help the elderly. That's just who we are, and that's what we've always done. We've had divided, propaganda to divide us, but people are opening their eyes. That's why you see a great big movement within the borders of this state, and people standing up and running for office because they're really sick of not having true people servants.
And I want to ask you, because it seems to me nationally, progressives that are in Congress, there's a huge opportunity right now for organizing, mm-hmm. whether it be a rent strike, whether it be, who knows, a general strike. People are losing their jobs like wildfire right now, meaning they don't have health care. And when people have nothing to lose, they, usually will take more aggressive action. Do you think mm-hmm. How the coronavirus and the kind of economic misery right now, not that you want that, but do you think that could kind of benefit your campaign? Because I think by November, frankly, these incumbents are going to have a lot of egg on their face, considering the lack of a real response.
People are holding them accountable, and, safety first. So we don't want people out, in the streets protesting and stuff. But I think once people feel safe and they can get out of their houses again, I think that you're going to see a true difference in the political dynamic and people standing up. Like I said, I talk to people all the time, and they're just really, really sick already of being underserved in this state. And the way that our leadership has handled this pandemic, I think it has been real eye-opening to not only West Virginians, but to people across the country.
And how are you campaigning right now? I mean, obviously you're not like knocking on doors and stuff. So what are you looking for volunteers? Are you doing things? What are you doing digitally?
Well, it's incredible, actually. And I wanted to shout out to everybody across the country. We still don't take corporate and corporate PAC dollars. We never have, and we never will. We have outraised everyone in the primary 8-1, and that's because even with West Virginia struggling, we've had a lot of West Virginians step up to volunteer and make phone calls to get out the vote, and people across the country, but people have donated and invested in West Virginia. We are the only campaign that is fully staffed. It's kind of ironic. My primary opponent is his prior campaign manager is working for me, an incredible campaign manager. He's done great things for our campaign. We have an expansive digital team. We have a finance director. We have an incredible comms director. And we just hired a couple people on field, and we've had over 800 to 1,000 people to sign up to get out the vote. So we have people making phone calls and sending texts. And despite everything that's going on, I'm really humbled by the people that I have behind me, because not only are they most hardworking people that I've ever seen, but they're the most talented people I think I've ever worked with.
And if you were elected into that Senate, right now there's kind of there's this debate among progressives. Some progressives who came in, they were activists and kind of loud, and I'm not going to work with the Democrats. They seem to be, working with the Democrats and being a little bit more cooperative, while others say, no, we're not here to hold hands with Nancy Pelosi. We are going to essentially we want to do what the Tea Party did, which is kind of like a hostile takeover without the racism. What if you were elected? How would you legislate? Would you try and compromise with the Chuck Schumers of the world or this and that, and basically get crumbs from them, or would it be a more aggressive approach?
I want to be aggressive and stand up for the people in my state. It wasn't my dream to be a politician. And I don't, to be honest with you, I'm a country girl. I don't like the thought of going to D.C., but it's necessary for the survival of the people in this state. And I would cut my leg off for my children. And they got a bad day if they think that I'm going to Washington to cater to anybody but the people that I'm supposed to serve. And that's about the priority is my state and the people across this country. And I believe no matter whatever party affiliation you are, Democrat, Republican, Independent, if you're public servant, that you should collectively be working together to make decisions for the people that you're supposed to serve. But the Nancy Pelosi's and the Chuck Schumers, they are not public servants. They are servants to corporations and lobbyists. And me specifically, and the whole slate that I'm standing with brand new Congress, I fully believe that they're not going to back down either, because like I said, we know what it's like to struggle every day. And this is something that is really important to me too, and West Virginians know. When people go to D.C. or they become representatives to us, the people that are serving in the front lines of our communities who are already solving our problems every day don't have a seat at the table. It's important to me when I go to Washington that I'm going to host round tables and town halls and sit down with the people that I know that have been working in the front lines of our communities forever, and make sure that they have a seat at the table and they get to help write legislation that will benefit West Virginians and people across this country.
Thank you very much, Paula Jean. Where could people find out more if they want to volunteer, donate?
Okay, so you can go to our website, paulajean.com, and that's Jean with a J, and Paula Jean 2020 on Facebook and Twitter. And you can donate at paulajean.com. And if you're interested in volunteering, email Andrew at paulajean.com.
Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com, where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.